Hello folks, back with the car news. In this one I'm looking at Autocar, Auto Express. I'm flitting between them a bit, and I've even got one story from my own website. Can you believe that? Critics warn against the government's £25 million for EV charging gullies. New solution should enable more to charge at home, but critics say it's not viable. So they're saying here that it's not viable because you can have one of these pavement gullies put in, but you still may not be able to park outside your own house. That's one of the points I raised when this thing was announced. And I think they are great. They are a good solution for people that don't have their own private drive. But of course, you might not be able to use it all the time. And depending on where you live, it may be very rare for you to ever get parking outside of your own house. So they're not a perfect solution. I also said it's not enough money. £25 million spread across the 400 odd local councils is simply not going to go very far. In the case of Oxfordshire's scheme, which is getting 700 grand, and they say that's going to help to fund 500 gullies, residents must pay £300 for a 2-year licence. So you're going to have a licence to have this thing in the pavement. This is bonkers. And it doesn't end there. After that, households need to pay an annual fee of £100 to cover operating costs. Operating costs for a gully in a pavement. The householder is also responsible for the pavement's reinstatement should they move or no longer require the gully. These costs are unavoidable. Oxfordshire City Council and others say that for safety reasons, people can't install a gully themselves or have it privately arranged. Defending the costs, the council spokesman said it's roughly equal to what, in 12 months, a household would save charging at home compared with using a public charger. Therefore, it's pointless. Brilliant. Only in the UK do we so regularly give with one hand and take away with the other. Absolute nonsense. I cannot believe the lack of thought and foresight that's gone into this thing. It's an absolute waste of time. It was clearly put out there as headline grabber, and I don't know. Common sense, folks. It's lacking. Lotus to cut up to 550 jobs in the UK as it eyes up a more sustainable future. It's incredibly sad news. Sports car makers confirmed it will slash its workforce in the UK, but insist Norfolk will remain its home. It's not clear which functions in the business are going to get the biggest cuts. But what they have said is that Norfolk will remain the home of Lotus sports car, motorsports and engineering consulting operations. Lotus also claims it's actively exploring future growth opportunities to diversify Lotus Cars' business model, including through third-party manufacturing, possibly hinting that their parent company Geely may look to use Lotus Hethel site to produce some of Polestar UK's engineering functions, which are currently based in the Midlands. Very sad news. The last thing the car industry needs is in-car subscriptions. I couldn't agree more with this, and I think a lot of you are the same. The industry is already on its backside a bit. You've got all these legacy brands that are fighting the good fight, if you believe what they tell you, against the Chinese that are coming in with increasingly better propositions at really more affordable prices. And then we get things like this VW subscription for extra horsepower. We've seen companies do it before for things like heated seats. And it does seem like some of the legacy manufacturers don't completely appreciate they're in a bit of a war at the moment, and they keep shooting themselves in the feet. And that's not a good thing to do if you want to make progress. I know a lot of people voiced their concerns in that last news video when I talked about this, but it does seem absolutely bonkers, doesn't it? Should pavement parking be banned in the UK? Motorists surprisingly say yes. 4 in 5 people, the RAC survey, believe pavement parking should be banned in some form. Now, I've got no problem with someone sticking a couple of wheels up on the curb if it makes it easier for passing traffic to go by and that kind of stuff, particularly in areas where you've got really bad double parking going on. But when you get this kind of situation, imagine you're a wheelchair user or you've got a pushchair or something, and you have to go out into what could be fairly busy traffic because there's a car blocking the pavement. You know, I think people that are doing this should just exercise a bit of common sense, and maybe they need to bring in some kind of rules of how much you can overhang or how much space you have to leave for pedestrians, wheelchair users, pushchairs, all that sort of stuff, because, you know, this kind of behaviour is a bit silly, really. If we literally just had the tyre width overhanging the pavement, I don't see why it should bother anyone. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The Audi TT concept has been leaked. I'm going to see this at Munich next week. More on that in a bit, but on Monday, watch out for my Munich video. Hopefully Monday afternoon if I get my finger out and transport works as it should and the internet works. First look at Audi's retro new design manifesto set for public debut at the Munich Motor Show. This thing looks outrageous, I think. First thing I thought when I saw the front, it sort of reminded me a little bit of that new Jag. But obviously this is a TT, so it's not going to have a wheelbase longer than the Titanic. But it looks very, very cool. I think it is only a concept, so we shouldn't get too excited about it. But I'm still in danger of getting overexcited with that because I've always liked the TT. Hyundai to preview the Ioniq 3 with radical electric hot hatch concept. Striking new concept 3 will start at Munich next week before evolving into a Cupra-born rival. I think we need more of this size of car out in the market. More of the traditional like family hatch side of the car, the Golf, the Focus. Not everyone needs a massive SUV. People have become accustomed to it, but I think the industry is largely to blame for that. They've got people into bigger cars, bigger and bigger and bigger cars, because they can make a bit more profit on it. Actually, for a lot of people, hatchback's far more practical, especially in this country where parking spaces seem to be getting smaller and harder to find. I'm sure that's going to be a very similar setup to the EV3 in terms of the drivetrain, etc. But hopefully I'll find out a little bit more next week. Smart number 2, the 4.2 successor confirmed for 2026. I was just chatting with my chum Alex about this the other day that I do the Charging Status podcast with. I'd really like to see an electric 4.2, and it looks like we're going to get one. Car Renter's final stages of development, and it will be one of Europe's smallest electric cars. This is like an Autocar artist impression, so don't read too much into that. More news on that as we get it. Next, BMW X5 to add hydrogen fuel cell power in 2028. 5th generation X5 will offer an FC EV powertrain that improves on the experimental iX5 hydrogen. That's all well and good if you can get your hands on the hydrogen and if it's cheap, essentially. Otherwise, I'm guessing they would expect fairly low numbers of these to sell. And it may even be they're going to produce a load of these for a specific contract or for some sort of internal thing. I can't imagine they're going to go big in the mainstream simply because there is zero infrastructure around. But I don't know, a lot might happen in the next 3 years. Tesla Model Y performance revealed with 460 brake horsepower and supercar pace. New top-rung twin-motor Model Y cracks 0-62 in 3.3 seconds and has a bespoke suspension setup. It's coming in at 62 grand. Deliveries begin in October, and it's had a significant design overhaul over the standard car. They're claiming 360 miles of range. It's going to get a slightly bigger 16-inch touchscreen in the center of the car, which is said to be Tesla's highest resolution display yet. Meanwhile, the front sport seats are heated and ventilated, come with bigger side bolsters that hold you in your seat when cornering. I'm sure they'll sell loads of these, but I've personally never been particularly excited by like the Model Y performance. I see that as very much a family car, and I'd rather have an Ioniq 5N, for example. But I do have an unhealthy relationship with that car. 2026 Kia Stonic revealed with new look and overhaul cabin. They're going after the Ford Puma with this. They're keeping an internal combustion engine option and a manual option in the car. I think that's a very good looking little car. And the Stonic usually offers a bit of value for money as well. There's a little 1 litre 3-cylinder turbo in that. There's also a mild hybrid option. They're not setting the world on fire or anything, but something like Stonic's about a car that's a decent price. Is going to tick quite a few boxes for a lot of people, and it's going to get you from A to B. It's not about the excitement it delivers while it does it. And you could say that about the Fiat Grande Panda when it arrives in November, priced from £18,000. Retro futuristic crossover undercuts much of the competition, and the EV starts at £21,000, which is quite interesting. It's a nice looking thing as well, or certainly an interesting looking thing. And we need more interesting looking cars. There's an advert. Why sports cars are swapping carbon fibre for flax. Manufacturers like BMW will use flax fibre parts on upcoming production models. I say that on application, the cradle to gate, which is the extraction of new materials to leaving the factory, CO2 footprint can be up to 85% lower compared with conventional composites. Some components can be 50% lighter and reduce the use of plastic by 70%. And this is already being used in motorsport, for example. And I think we're going to start hearing a lot about flax fibre and a bit less about carbon fibre in the next few years. Lotus confirms plug-in hybrid Emira for 2027. Sports car will gain the same hyper-hybrid technology being developed for the brand's luxury EVs. Lotus as a brand has been really struggling financially in recent times. We've already heard in this video about the 550 job losses coming up in Norwich. So let's hope, for the sake of Lotus, that it works. Volvo V90 production to end as brand eyes future without estates. Brand's largest and most luxurious estate will meet its end in coming weeks. This is a bit like Groundhog Day from Volvo. They've already told us they're getting rid of the Volvo estate, and then they bought back the V60. Now they're getting rid of the V90. I think it's a kind of a official cut bait situation. It may just be they're going to go down to the V60 only as the only estate offering that they do. Or maybe they'll get rid of that again. But people won't buy estate cars if they can't buy estate cars. If the only thing you can get is an SUV, that's what you're going to end up with. But I know there are lots of people that have an estate car because they've got a big dog that they like to get into the back of, and they need ramps and things to get into the back of an SUV. Some people with wheelchairs and things find it easier with an estate car. I think there's still a market if the car manufacturers allow it to exist. IT issue leaves JLR unable to register cars on crucial new plate day. No new Land Rover models registered in the UK yesterday, 1st September, as manufacturer races to solve system fault. It goes from bad to worse, really, for JLR, doesn't it? There's just sort of one negative PR story after another. And I don't know, it feels like someone needs to get in there, take the reins and shake things up a little bit. New Kia EV5 on sale now with 329 miles of range for just under 40 grand. So it's under that luxury car tax bracket, although that will be for the entry level. If you go for a higher trim level, you will obviously be into that luxury car tax bracket. Electric equivalent of the Sportage will arrive before the end of 2025 as a rival to the Ford Explorer and the Skoda Elroq. And I've got little doubt that will be absolutely brilliant because the Koreans seem to know what they're doing, don't they? Yeah, if you go to GT line, it goes up to 42.5 grand. GT line S 47. I've said it before, but that luxury car tax threshold desperately needs to be dealt with because inflation's a thing. Who'd have thought? Maybe changing that threshold every time Halley's Comet comes around is not quite often enough. Finally, one from my website, Chery arrives in the UK. I was invited along to the O2 in London last week for the launch of Chery as a brand in the UK. Chery already has a Moda and _𝙄𝙄 in the UK, but they're now going to have the Chery brand as well, which has been around in China for quite a long time. They've also been manufacturing engines for other companies for a long time. In fact, Chery makes a lot of engines for John Deere is one example. They certainly put on a bit of a show, and I got to actually have a chat with a lot of the senior people in the company, one being the UK CEO. And we spoke a little bit about the 𝙄𝙄 and how Chery now has got over 2.5% of the UK car market, which is crazy considering they've been around for 10 minutes in relative terms. And he said it was largely due to sales of the 𝙄𝙄7, which he described as a bit of a happy accident. They've sold about 25,000 cars now in the UK, which is quite a considerable number. And we had a look at the new Chery cars. You've got the Tiggo 7, the Tiggo 8 that are going to be coming out initially. I'm actually just about to go and drive these cars at a launch event this week. And I've had the Tiggo 7 in Spain as an Ebro S7. Ebro's an old Spanish brand that I assume Chery's purchased, or they've just bought in some cars and rebadged them. But it was actually pretty decent. And the headline on it really is that you can get one of these, which is a very nicely trimmed with quite a nice interior, family SUV with a good sized boot, drives reasonably well, really quite sensible and ticks loads of boxes for 25 grand. And then they've got a 3-year service plan for 500 quid and a 7-year warranty. So there will be a lot of companies that are very twitchy over this because I think they could do well. Obviously, how well the cars last, how reliable they are, all that sort of stuff. We're only going to know in the fullness of time. And they also said this is not an overnight decision to come to the UK. And they said kind of there are a lot of Chinese companies that are just springing up in the UK. They said it's been in the plans for them for 20 years, this launch in the UK. So they want to do it properly and they want to do it sustainably. So they're less focused on taking over the world. They're more focused on getting their house in order and like building a reputation. So that's quite nice to hear. Whether any of it actually comes to fruition, only time will tell, won't it? But they've definitely made some positive noises about that. As I said earlier, Munich Motor Show's coming up next week. On Monday afternoon, I hope my video will come out. If not, I guess it'll be early evening on Monday. There'll also be a couple of other videos coming later in the week. I hope one of the manufacturers has asked me to go and do a video on their stand, which I'm quite happy to go and do. But my normal walk around with a few dad jokes and things will be there. Sometimes it's a little bit of a car crash, so look out for that one. The Paris one did phenomenal numbers, so I'm hoping lots of people watch. With that one, please, if you do watch, please give it a thumbs up, because it's going to be really important for the algorithm. It cost me a lot of money to get to these international events, so I really appreciate it if as many people as possible could watch, and of course give it a thumbs up. Every little helps, as they say at Tesco. And folks, thank you very much for watching this one. I hope I haven't rambled too much. Thanks for all the support over the last week, and massive thanks to all of you that choose to subscribe or become channel members. It all really does mean a lot. Thanks again. See you on the next one. Huge thanks to all my channel members for your continued support. I really do appreciate it.